So Moose wants to talk about science and studies. So it seems like these days we've gotten so big on trying to call everything science that we've just gotten really stupid. So specifically with the dog studies, they have all these studies and they're trying to say dog science, blah, blah, blah. And yes, behavior is a science, but there's practical application that you don't get out of a book or a lab somewhere, right? So it's like sterile environments. You have different variables. There are going to be the different people, the different dogs. So there's no one size fit all. So to me, that right there discounts science. It makes it information, and it makes data that we should use to apply to the dogs, right? But we have to be able to adjust for the dog and for the people. So that said, in these studies, think about this. These studies, they keep saying, first off, when they first talk about studies, they say positive reinforcement versus balanced training, okay? Now they're not even doing that. Now they're calling it aversive training because they have to change the language because they know they're giving you bad information. They know it's not. Otherwise, they wouldn't be changing the language. What's going on with the phone? Anyways, I want to go off on tangents. I always do. But in these studies where they're using e-collars, so instead of saying positive only training versus e-collar training, right? They were saying balance. Now they're trying to say again versus aversive training, probably because they've gotten so much backlash from balance trainers. Because what do balance trainers do? They use food just like the positive reinforcement only people. So all the people that I watch that do e-collars, like me personally, I don't do e-collars or prong collars unless the situation absolutely warrants it. Even then, I try to avoid having to do it. You know, and I just try to. What I do is I give the client information and I let them make the decision. The only time that I've kind of pushed it is with the dog that I've got here now, because she wants to walk the dog, but she doesn't want to work it. It's an older lady with a high drive dog. She wants to walk her, and she spends a lot of money for the dogs to come here and get work and all that kind of stuff. So, but she has a hard time with the work part of it. So I said, the only way you're going to be able to do that is we're going to have to work her on the prong collar, because you will never get her to settle down on a martingale collar or a slip lead. Right? I can handle it, but I'm stronger. So anyways, tangent number one, right? Or is that tangent number two? Anyways, in these studies, they've had to change their wording because they know they're not not comparing against balanced training. So now they're calling it aversive training. So, and then that carries over into the real world. So now people like Zach George are going after balance trainers like Robert Cabral, Larry Crone. Who else has he gone after? Joel Beckman. I think he's gone after Joel. Anyways, Ivan Balbanov. All people that you take their dogs and put it next to anything Zach George has ever done, he's trash compared to them. He will never touch the kind of dogs that they do. Tangent number two, tangent number three. So they changed the language because, so now they're calling it aversive training because that will elicit an emotional response in you to go, oh my God, this guy's an aversive trainer. Where these guys use as much food as the positive reinforcement people do. They just also use training tools. See, I told you I was going to get lost. Now I don't know where I was going. Oh, studies. So these studies, they're not using people like Robert Cabral in it, or Larry Crone, or Ivan Balbanov. All these really well-known, worldwide known people. The guy from Shield K9. They're not using those guys. Who are they using? Right? And then here's the other part. So most trainers these days, now originally it wasn't this way. but it is these days they condition the tool usually with food, right? So they'll do the stem, and then they'll give the dog food. Stem and give the dog food. Stem, give the dog food. What does that mean? Every time you stem it, they're supposed to look and come to you, right? They're not telling you that, and they're not doing that in studies. What they're doing in studies is they're turning it up as high as it'll go, right? So instead of finding a working level, which is usually pretty low, and only turning it up when the arousal level is super high, they're starting super high. So the information on these studies is terribly skewed, because they usually do a study. I think the longest period I've seen is 2 weeks. So it's not even like they go back to what are you getting into? What is that? Is that one of my hot dog bags? Huh, did I leave a hot dog bag out here? It looks like it, doesn't it? Let's go throw this away. So the way they're doing it is they're doing it so they can absolutely see how I got their bag up there. It makes them want to jump. If you got something that they want and they want it, they're gonna jump up for it, as long as they're not jumping into you. All right, come on, buddy. So anyways, they're trying to elicit a negative response. So they're giving you the most positive of one way and the most negative of the other way, right? Most e-collar programs are 6 weeks. So they'll do 2 weeks of like food work, and then they start conditioning in the tool. So they're not even using the e-collar for the first 2 weeks. So they're doing these studies in a 2-week period, right? Where normally people aren't even using the e-collar yet, right? So therein lies the other problem. So if they wanted to be actual real about it, what they would do is they would have, they could even do it with the dog that the positive only people train. Take a dog that they trained for 2 weeks. Actually, that's kind of bad. You want it to be consistent with the handler. But you take a dog that's already had its 2-week obedience, and then now you start doing the e-collar. That would make it a fair playground, because the e-collar is only making stuff better. It's not actually teaching e-collar and prong collar. It's not actually teaching the stuff. They use food work to teach the obedience, and e-collar or prong collar to make it better, to enhance it. But they try to make it sound like the tool is what's teaching, and it's not. It all comes from showing the dog what we want, right? We showed where we go. I didn't bring food today. He's probably not going to poop because he pooped really late last night. Anyways, studies are always, 95% of the time, studies are looking for a certain, don't get there. What is it? Yeah, we don't want you rolling in poop. Come on. Rolling in cat poop. Look like a cat poop or a little dog poop. Right? So just remember, and the reason I started knowing studies were bad and faulty, kind of always skewed information, like in I think the late 70s, or maybe it was the early 80s. I can't remember. I saw this thing about Gatorade and electrolytes. And it was a study that showed Gatorade and its electrolytes rehydrate you 25% better, or 50% better than water, or whatever. It was some kind of, I don't remember the numbers. But I remember looking at it, and I was looking, and it said, study done by Gatorade University. I'm like, dude, you do your own study, and then you're trying to tell me, get out of here. That's exactly what these people are doing. That's exactly what all your healthcare studies are funded by Big Pharma. So, of course, they're going to tell you, here, you do this. That's why everything is telling you to use some kind of medication. They never do a study and say, hey, eat healthy. Hey, exercise. They say, hey, you need this. In case you haven't noticed that. Now, it didn't used to be that way. It is these days, because everything's run by Big Pharma. They want you sick. Just like the force-free movement wants you stuck. Instead of taking care of something in a couple weeks, they use a bunch of emotional drivel to make you think it takes 3 years to take care of something. Now, some stuff does. Or maybe I just still think that way because that's the way I was taught to believe that. But that's not to say we shouldn't be the most kind and soft as we can be in our training. Just sometimes you have to come up to the energy of the dog. I think I'm getting lost. 10 minutes. Surprised I didn't go off on more than 3 tangents. Good. Hey, good boys. These good boys, Moosey. Right. Let's see. What are other emotional BS stuff that they're trying to do? They're throwing out ethical training nowadays, trying to say they're trying to say that positive only and force free is ethical training, right? Whereas balanced training isn't balanced training. So if you use a prong collar, e-collar, or see right there, or a slip lead, a little bit of least pressure. They're even starting to talk about slip leads now. This is all stuff that we use in all the shelters. Gotta use them. Because the dogs are so wound up. That pressure really helps. Right? And shelters and rescues, it happens because you just can't get the dogs out enough. There's so many in there. There's so many. And I saw this one thing with this lady. I call BS that these people are saying they're saving lives. And I can guarantee you she doesn't step foot in the shelter not one time in her career. I can guarantee you with the amount of, because she's a veterinary behaviorist, so I can guarantee you she's up about $300-400 an hour. I can guarantee you she's not doing anything to help this dog get a home or stay in a home. Because the people that have a dog that are about to give them up, they can't afford to pay $300 an hour. So that's the other thing, right? That movement, it's an elitist movement. It absolutely is an elitist movement. It is not it's not doing anything to help the poor people, the middle class, right? Get out of there. There you go. Because these people can't afford that. People like me, in no way. People that live in these apartments here, no way. Shit, they can't afford what I charge. And I give them neighbor discounts. It's about 50% of what I charge, which is already low for the industry. But then, anyways, I'm just rambling now. I was supposed to stop at 10 minutes. It's now 14. All right, have a good day. Don't believe everything you hear. Believe what you see. Right? Just look around. Don't even listen to me. Research stuff. You think e-collars and prong collars are bad? Look up Robert Cabral, Larry Crone, Ivan Balbanov. What's the other guy I like a lot? Man, he hasn't come across in my... Andy Kruger. Michael Ellis. Look at them and the dogs that they have. Amazing. Robert Cabral actually does a lot of work in shelters. So that's what I do. All these people that say, all these positive only people that say, oh, you don't need that stuff to save dogs' lives. Or they say, I said that in the wrong tone. You don't need that stuff to save dogs' lives. They're not going into shelters. They're not doing any shelter work. Look at the people who are doing shelter work. There are dogs in shelters you can absolutely handle on a harness around other people. There are other dogs, you better have it on a slip lead. Now, I've never used the prong collar stuff in a shelter. But Tom Davis is another one I forgot to mention. Just look at them. Look at the way they speak. Look at how they act. and look at the dogs that they work with. Don't trust the Anthony Fauci style science, because it's not. Science doesn't discount empirical evidence. Empirical evidence is videos that are all over YouTube, people on their websites. It doesn't deny history, right? For thousands of years, people have been training their dogs naturally, right? No food, no, just using praise and affection. I still think food's the best way, but maybe because I was taught it that way. Maybe if I was taught a different way first, instead of being taught food and then learning the other ways. But I like it like that. I like the food stuff. I just think people need to leave other people alone. Calling people abusive and all that kind of crap. It's terrible. Terrible, terrible. Our society has gotten... Found you a little stick. And I got poo-poo. Alright, I guess the video can keep going then. You done, buddy? It's kind of chilly this morning. Not too bad though. What did they say, 40, 43? Hi, friend. You got me a stick? Uh-oh. I got you wrapped up now.